But at the very end of 2024, I completed my first year as a freelance graphic designer. And since this is a graphic design focused YouTube channel, I figured there's at least a couple of you who would be interested in my experience. So in this video, I want to talk about my experience, my perspective, and then give some advice for anybody who might be interested in becoming a freelance graphic designer. So first off, let's talk about my experience and my perspective. So to be completely transparent and honest, I gotta say, this year was really, really hard. Now going into this year, I already knew that trying to be a freelance graphic designer wasn't going to be easy. It wasn't going to be something that I could just, say, oh, I'm going to be a freelance graphic designer now. And every single client that I've ever wanted to work with is just going to come and find me and hire me. I knew that I was going to have to change, I was going to have to adapt, and I was going to have to get uncomfortable. But even knowing that and trying to keep that in perspective, it was still really tough. You're a small fish in a big pond, and it's really easy to feel lonely and like you're just a complete failure, which I guess is only partially true because whenever I put it into perspective, anytime you start anything from scratch, it's gonna suck. It's like if you were to pick up a guitar for the very first time. Of course, you're not gonna know the right chords or all the scales. It's just going to be an instrument in your hand, and you have to take a lot of time to develop the skills and the knowledge behind it in order to play it correctly. And so that's something that I had to keep kind of reminding myself, which is, this is my first year. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure things out. I don't know all the things that I should know. I can't do all the things that I can do, but the very least I can do is try and make sure that every day I'm being a little bit better and being a little bit smarter. But what I do know is if I keep trying and I keep applying what I'm learning, I'll eventually get to where I'm going. It just kind of depends on how long. One of the harder pills that I had to swallow is that I didn't make as much money as I did whenever I was working at a full-time job. I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I don't have to worry about being evicted, going into debt, or considering selling my organs, at least not yet anyways. But it's still not very encouraging or great in order to look at your bank account and going, oh, this is gonna be pretty tight. And then on top of not making a lot of money, I also wasn't able to work on a lot of projects that I found really exciting or interesting. All the projects that I took on this year were mostly just to pay the bills, and I'm extremely thankful for those opportunities, but I can't say they were the most intriguing or something that I was truly interested in and was like, this is what I want to be doing. This is like the thing that I was put on this earth to do. It was just, hey, I can pay the bills and I can help someone out. So, hey, win-win. But that leads me to one of the good things, one of the things that I want to talk about, which is just having a group of people that can help you and are looking out for you. I'm fortunate enough to know a handful of people that throughout this year have either sent me leads or clients, and that's what's helped me pay the bills. And without them, I don't know where I would be. So that actually leads into my first bit of advice, which is to create and nurture your network. I know there's a lot of people who talk about social media like it's just an easy way to get clients. All you have to do is just post and it'll just go right into the feeds of the people who need to see it, but that's just not really true. That's not to say that you shouldn't use social media and it can't get you clients, but I think we need to put it into perspective. When are you looking for a plumber? And then whenever you do look for a plumber, how do you find them? So you're looking for a plumber whenever a pipe bursts. Typically, you're not really looking for a plumber before that. And probably the first thing that you're gonna do if you are looking for a plumber is either ask some people around you that you know or Google it. So if we were to replace plumbing with graphic design, you'd probably get the same exact results. Their feeds, their algorithms, whatever you wanna call it, they're not tailored for graphic design. They're not looking for graphic designers. So, they're not gonna see your post and think, oh, well, you know what, 2 years from now, I'm going to need a rebrand for my company, so I better follow them and get in contact with them so they can do the rebrand 2 years from now. And this is why having a really good network of people is so important. This could be your friends, your family, just some people that you work with or have worked with in the past. As long as they know what you do and they can kind of be an advocate for you, they can really help you out, because you never know what's gonna happen. Someone could come up to your best friend and they're saying, I'm starting this business, but I don't have a logo or anything. And now your best friend is in the perfect position to say, hey, well, I actually know somebody who does graphic design. I can refer them to you. And then once you help that business owner out, they might know some other business owners that need some help. Maybe it's a rebrand, maybe it's a completely new brand. But as you can see, just kind of expanding that network and having people advocate for you is a really powerful tool. You just have to make sure that the people in your life, whenever they think of graphic designer, they think of you and nobody else. And still, there's also a lot of people that you're not going to be able to get in contact to. Because let's say you live in New York and the company that you want to work with is all the way in California. You might not know people in California. There's no connection there. And so the only way to create a network like that is through cold emailing and just kind of trying to spark some engagement. So that could be sending cold emails, just trying to introduce yourself, get the foot in the door, try to start some kind of relationship. Or that could be finding them on Instagram and following them and just kind of trying to, actually start a relationship. Because you never know when that person's going to need some graphic design help. And it would be great if they're like, oh, you know what? I remember talking to a graphic designer on Instagram. He was asking me some really good questions and we just had a really good interaction, and they remember that. And so they go, I should contact them. Or it could be something like going to events, because let's say you want to work in the music industry with bands. Let's say you go to some local shows and you just kind of schmooze it up with some of the local bands. So now you get to actually start a conversation with somebody and hopefully build a relationship with them. So that way they go, well, you know what? We had a conversation that was really good with that one designer. Maybe we should reach out to him and see if there's something that we could do together. Now, obviously, not all of that is just going to work out as perfectly as you hope, but it's still a really good way to get your foot into the door in some places that you might not typically be able to. So again, a really big piece of advice that I would offer is just to create and nurture your network. Now, my second piece of advice is to use your time wisely. So if you become a freelance graphic designer and your experience is anything like mine, you'll probably have some downtime between projects. And it would be great to just take that time to kick back, relax, watch some TV, play some video games. But honestly, you should be using that time to do something that's a little bit more productive. That could mean tightening up some processes, writing some emails, working on some personal projects, doing something that's going to push your business, even if there's not a project going on. Personally, I spent a lot of time working on personal projects because I wanted to tighten up my skills, and I also wanted to add some new things into my portfolio. That way I could reach out to different markets and different companies, and I would actually have something to offer them rather than just kind of a general portfolio that doesn't really speak to them specifically. And what's also nice about working on personal projects is since you don't have to worry about deadlines quite as much, you have a little bit more freedom. You can take the time to develop resources for yourself that will help you whenever you get an actual paid project. So if you watch one of my recent videos where I did a rebrand for this channel, you can see that I created a document to kind of explain my thought processes, and as well as just kind of condense all the information that I was using for that rebrand into one document. And the good thing about that is now that I have that document created, I can use that for future projects. So the next time that I get a paid project and I'm trying to summarize all the information from a brand workshop that we did or some kind of meeting, I have a really nice document, a really nice resource that I've already built that I can send to the client. So that way I don't have to spend time doing it. I already did it, and I did it just in my free time instead of kind of wasting that time, watching TV, playing video games, and just, not using my time wisely. So just remember, any downtime can always be spent on doing something productive, whether that's personal projects, working on your business, sending out emails, or creating resources for yourself in the future. Now, my third piece of advice is to be diligent with your finances. Now, I didn't do too terribly this year with that, but I could definitely be a little bit better. For me, typically what I like to do is at the very end of each month, I like to just go through my bank account statement, all the activity, and transport that information into Notion. So that way I have a little bit more of an easier way to look at that information. But it's not really fun or entertaining. It's kind of a hassle. So I sometimes pushed it off, and I would just create headaches for myself. Because the more information that you're having to put into your document or transfer, there's a lot more room for mistakes. And then whenever you have mistakes, it becomes its own big headache. And so it's a lot easier just to kind of keep up with the routine of doing it. So that way it feels like, regular maintenance, and you're just kind of doing it as you do it periodically rather than trying to do it all at one time. Hey, I haven't done anything this entire year to look at my finances, but I'm going to do it now. Please do it periodically. You'll save yourself a lot of headache. And one of the other things I have to be really careful of is taxes. So I'm not a financial expert, so I only know kind of the basics, and I'm based out of the United States. So things might be different from where you're at if you're overseas or somewhere that's not in the United States. But as a freelancer, basically all of the money that I'm getting in, I actually have to pay back to the government because they're not taking that out of my paycheck like it would if I was working at a business, which can be very scary if you're not planning for that in the future. Because if I didn't separate that money out, whenever I got to the end of the year, I might have spent all of the money that I made coming in, paying myself or working on other stuff. And then it's like, well, now I have this big payment that I got to pay to the government, and it's coming straight out of my pocketbook rather than from the business. So while it might be overkill, what I started doing was taking out 30% of any of the money that I got into my business and setting that aside for taxes. Now that might be more than what I need, but I would much rather have plenty of money set aside for taxes than not enough. And for me, it was really easy because of the bank that I use. I have it set up to where it automatically takes away that 30%, so I don't really have to worry about doing manually. And I know that if I was doing that manually, it would be a lot more painful than if it was just an automatic deduction. So yeah, be really careful with your finances because it could become a headache real quick. Now, my fourth piece of advice is to not be afraid to pivot. Running a business is like solving a problem. And if you're taking one piece of the puzzle and trying to get it to fit into a spot that it doesn't, you're gonna end up failing. So really what you need to be able to do is to look at the piece, try it out, and if it doesn't work, pick up another piece that you think will work and try it again until you figure out what piece fits there. And this is a time-consuming process, but you pretty much have to do it for every part of your business. Marketing, process, emails, everything that you're gonna do is kind of a puzzle piece that you're trying to figure out what fits there the best. So you have to be willing in order to say, I thought this was gonna work, but it didn't. So now it's time to stop this and come up with a different idea, a different direction in order to hopefully get me where I want to go. Now, running a business, this puzzle is always going to be ongoing. You're never gonna have all of the puzzle pieces fitting quite right. So you have to kind of learn and be okay with shifting and adapting because yeah, this puzzle piece works right now, but who knows, a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, you might have to revisit that piece and go, just not working, and now I gotta switch it out again. So like, you can't actually just automate your business and be like, okay, well, I now have the perfect way to get clients and I never have to worry about it again. At some point, it's going to fail and you're gonna have to reevaluate that process and figure out a new way. But one of the good things is with experience and tenure, you start to kind of figure things out a little bit easier than whenever you first start. So yeah, you have to kind of figure out the puzzle pieces all over again, but at least you have a little bit more experience than you did when you started. So hopefully those puzzle pieces should be a little bit easier to find than whenever you first start. Now, my last piece of advice is to find some sort of community. Now that could be other designers, could be other freelancers, or it could be other business owners. Like I said earlier, it can be incredibly lonely working all by yourself and you're having all these problems and you don't really have anybody to talk about them with. You're trying all these different things, looking for results, and you're just not getting them. But if you have some kind of community or support system, it makes it a lot easier because not only can they encourage you if you're feeling down or feeling lonely, but they can also help you out in figuring out those puzzle pieces. Because for instance, you might try something and then you bring it to them and you're saying, I'm trying to figure out this marketing strategy that I'm doing. And then they can say, actually, you know what? I tried that out. It didn't work really well for me, but I did try this and it worked out perfectly. And maybe that's the exact puzzle piece that you need. And likewise, you might have some information that they need, so you can give it right back to them. And if you're in the right community, it should always go both ways. You're helping them, they're helping you, and together you're both succeeding. Plus, whether you're failing or succeeding, it's much better to do it with somebody else than alone. So if you see somebody in your network that's succeeding, make sure that you celebrate with them because that's important. In the same, if they're struggling, make sure that you're there for them. Offer your support. See if there's somewhere that you can help. Because like I said, if you're in the right spot, whenever you do that for them, they'll do that for you. So that way, you have some kind of support system because then you're not all alone failing, trying to figure this stuff out. You have somebody there to encourage you and to help you and hopefully, get you to where you want to go. So I know I did a lot of talking in this video, but that's pretty much my experience and some advice that I would offer to anybody here that is looking to become a freelance graphic designer in the future. Now, I know talking throughout this video, it might sound like this is actually a terrible idea, but let me be completely honest. It's really tough and it can really suck at some points, but whenever things are going right, it's so rewarding. Out of all the jobs that I've had and all the things that I've done since I've graduated college, I can for sure say this is the most rewarding. The stress of it will probably take a few years off my life, but honestly, I think it's worth it. When you're building relationships, working with clients, and you get to see how happy they are with the product that they're getting, it's really rewarding to know that you got to be a part of that and you did it all on your own. There wasn't somebody helping you or guiding you. It was all you. But again, if you're failing, it's also all on you. So it's kind of a catch-22. So like I said, there's really high highs and there's really low lows. And the goal is just to try to get those to equalize a little bit. So that way, whenever you hit those highs, you're like, okay, this is good. I should be happy, but let's not get too much on our high horse. Let's not get too positive or think too crazy. Let's bring it back to kind of an equilibrium. Same thing with the lows where, this really sucks. I haven't had a project in 3 months. Things are tight. I don't know where this next project is going to come from, but you just have to keep going and reminding yourself that something's going to happen eventually. You just kind of have to figure out and keep going until you get there. And if you do become a freelance graphic designer yourself, hopefully you'll be a little bit more prepared for it than you were before you watched this video. And of course, if you found this video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you would check out the rest of my channel and then consider subscribing. I hope to see you in the next video.